Hey everyone, it's me, Jordan, and I am back to do some hobbying, this time with the American Girl Library classic, Tiny Treasures. You might recall that in my youth, I had this book, but I only ever made one item multiple times. So now that I'm a certified grown-up, I'm gonna switch it up and make this cute little bookcase out of my daughter's shoebox. So let's get started, after my logo has its time to shine. So this is not just going to be any bookcase. A while back, I used polymer clay to make the same wizard I used to make when I was around age 10 or 11. That wizard is now hanging out in my office at work, so I decided it might be nice to build him a little wizard library. Every wizard I've come across has been very well read, so this seemed appropriate. I'm getting started with this set of paper that someone gifted to me years ago when they thought I might be interested in scrapbooking. I was not interested in scrapbooking, but somehow this paper survived at least 2 moves, and so now I can finally put it to good use to give the outside of my bookcase a nice rustic look. I end up using a lot of Elmer's glue in this project, and I have to say it was incredibly satisfying to cut and paste the way we were all taught to in kindergarten before we all turned to Control-C, Control-V. These are just things I haven't really needed to do in years, right? Like cutting through construction paper and pasting things together. So even though it's super simple, the act just had a feel of like coziness to it. This is how I used to spend my time when I was young, spending hours building dioramas for every single school project. This process of revisiting childhood hobbies, it's been unlocking a lot of memories for me. I think similarly to when you see those clips of elderly people listening to their favorite song and then suddenly they can recall every detail about the sock hops they used to go to or the rhubarb pies their grandma used to make. I definitely don't want to compare myself to an Alzheimer's patient or anything. I realize that those experiences are very different. But I do recognize that our brains only have so much memory capacity. And a lot of it for me can get filled with the most recent happenings and then maybe some vague recollections of past stuff, plus a lot of tidbits from like whatever podcasts or YouTube clips I'm listening to and then whatever memes are getting sent around at that time. But I think having my body redo these things has been bringing some of those vague recollections more to the forefront of my mind. Like in the first grade, when I had to do a report on an animal that included making their habitat, and I had those fold-out sheets about different animals that you could get in the mail. I had to look them up. They're called Wildlife Fact Files. Let me know if you guys had these. I think maybe we got sent a pack of them for free in hopes that it would spur my mom or dad to buy some more. I don't think they ever did, but I chose to do my report on the blue-footed booby of the Galapagos Islands, and I think that was, most likely one of the free fact files. And I remember going to get my materials from Michael's, which included a lot of these sage green foam blocks for the base, and then faux leaves and moss to help build out like the Galapagos habitat. And my mom tried to help me connect all these foam blocks together that were probably used for, like faux flower arrangements or something. So you stick the block at the bottom of your vase or pot, but the blocks would rub together and then all of this like plastic foam dust kept getting everywhere. As I'm thinking about it, I can hear the sound of foam grating together. It's kind of like sandpaper. And then for some reason, when the report was long done, I kept that diorama in my closet for years. So then every time I accidentally nudged it, more foam dust would rub off. And then I'd have to vacuum it up until I finally threw it out. I don't know why I kept it for so long. But that's another reason why I would highly suggest revisiting some old hobbies. I started doing this because I needed a creative outlet and I wanted to go back and do some things that I found interesting and fun when I was younger. So if you're looking for a hobby, if you're feeling like you've been neglecting the more creative parts of yourself lately, I just want to encourage you to think back to when you were around 10 years old, what lit you up back then, what was super interesting to you, and then find a way to reincorporate those things back into your life. Because maybe in the process, you'll get some memories back like I did. So now I am in the process of cutting up a bunch of cardboard to make all of the books. And I realize I haven't addressed the fact that you might be seeing people moving around in the background of this whole video. It was fine. They were supposed to be there. They were just doing some work on the back patio as I was handling my very important project. But for each of my books, I would cut 3 different pieces of cardboard to make them the right thickness. And then I would glue each layer before I would add construction paper as the binding. It was kind of tedious to make that many books this way, but hey, you know what? That's art, man. I know this video is only like 15 minutes long, but this was a solid hour and change of me doing children's arts and crafts, you guys. It's a process. So next time you balk at some of the prices for those homemade goods on Etsy, just consider the time that went into those pieces. If it took me like an hour and a half to make a bookcase out of a shoebox, I can only imagine, how much time those resin paint pour tables must have taken. I'm mostly speaking to myself because I'm the one who balks at the prices on Etsy, so this is like a reminder to myself. So now we are getting to some paint. Clearly I cannot leave the shelves this shoebox gray and pink combo. So I pulled out some paint I already had on hand and I mixed up this dark bluish black color with some gold to try and give it a subtle magical shimmer. I wasn't super happy with how the shelves were looking after I placed them. I probably should have tried putting the lip of the lid facing out to make it seem like the shelf was a little bit thicker, but I did not think of that until I was done, so they look a little bit flimsy. The way you get around that though when it's a wizard bookcase is by telling everyone that the wood is hundreds of years old, so of course there's going to be some of that bending in the middle, I'm not going for perfection here, mostly because I know already that I'm not skilled enough, so I'm not going to lose my mind over some flimsy cardboard. I'd like to be able to tell you that mindset is new for me, like I'm some recovering perfectionist and I used to struggle with everything needing to be the best, but then I went through a lot of growth to where I could finally let things go. But that's never been me. I can honestly tell you I've always been a solid type B. Finished is good enough, you know what I'm saying? In my grad program, I had this professor who was kind enough to outline in his syllabus, like, hey, here's all the work you need to do to get an A, but if you don't care about having an A, here's all the work you need to do just to get a solid B. And I appreciated that because it's grad school. What are you trying to have a 4.0 for? Just pass the class. So that's what I did. I took the B track and I never looked back, and now here I am playing with the cardboard that I saved for weeks in my closet. So for this part, I wanted to make a stack of books to give some variety. You can't just have a bunch of single books all in a row, you need to switch it up like all the curated design shows do. So I figured maybe this is like a batch of periodicals that get sent to the Wizard's cottage on a bi-monthly basis. So they're all glued together with that haphazard look, and then I painted them pure gold for some contrast against that dark backdrop. And then I added some of this gold flecking to this black book as well to make it look a little bit more whimsical and aged. Yes, lovely. After that, I spent some time assembling the rest of the books. Again, a lot of Elmer's glue and picking out all the best colors I could think of for the bindings. This got pretty repetitive, so I edited a lot of it down. But while you're watching me go through that process and then staging all of the books, something else I wanted to talk about is what I've been learning lately. So when I was still working as a therapist, I had a supervisor who was a very wise older psychologist, and we would have our individual supervision for an hour once a week where he would just ask me, "So, what are you learning?" And that would be the launching point for discussing everything that was going on with my cases and my identity as a therapist and what was going on in my own life and just kind of how all of that was interconnected, that sort of thing. There was a season early on when I would cry during almost every supervision, and not like an unhinged cry, like I shouldn't have been working, but more like as I would be processing things, tears would just be streaming down my face as I would talk a lot of the time because I'm a very internal person. So sometimes this would be the first time when I would really slow down enough to articulate everything that I was mulling over with my clients. But as for things that I've been learning more recently, I'd say one is that I'm learning how to be more diligent. I did take a solid, few week break from uploading a new video, but this is my 10th one. And I had to resign myself to the fact that just because I make something doesn't mean it's going to pay off right away. I have just about 40 subscribers right now, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but I determined when I started this channel that I would need to act as if I already had way more eyes on it, or else I would easily get discouraged by the fact that I'm putting in a lot of work with very little payoff. By work, I mean editing. Editing is a beast and it takes hours on hours. And we love the myth of an overnight success where somebody just haphazardly uploads their first video right before they go to bed, and suddenly they wake up to all these notifications and they got 11 million views and it changed their whole life trajectory. Would I love for that to happen to me? Of course I would, but that's not very realistic. More likely it will take me months and months to find my footing and to get better at making videos and to find an audience for them. But I have a history of getting really excited about something for a couple of weeks, but then the shininess wears off and I just forget about it. It gets buried. An example is I tried to make photography my hobby like 5 years ago. And I was relearning things that I learned in my high school yearbook class about things like ISO and composition and all this stuff. But instead of steadily building my skills over time, I just stopped working on it out of nowhere. There are a lot of should've, would've, could've's in my past, and I know a lot of self-care advocates would say to eliminate the shoulds and coulds from your vocabulary, You're supposed to extend radical compassion to yourself, but instead you're shoulding all over yourself. But you know what? I disagree. There are things that I believe I should be doing, but for whatever reason, I am not. So instead of extending radical compassion to myself and just letting it go, maybe I can give myself a compassionate kick in the pants and do some investigating as to why I've let certain things fall by the wayside. If I say that something matters to me, but my actions and the way I spend my time are not aligning with what I said matters, then what might be the reason why I am avoiding those things? Is it the fear of failure? That if I actually put myself out there and it doesn't go well, that it'll prove that I am not as good as I hoped it would be? Is it fear of success? That if I have some positive feedback, that I'll be caught in a cycle of constantly needing to prove myself and sustain that success? Is it that I've created an unsustainable lifestyle where exhaustion is frequent and maybe I need to take stock of my commitments and eliminate some things to make room for something new? I think depending on which thing I've let fall by the wayside, the answer could be any one of those three. But what I am in the process of learning is pushing through the discomfort of trying something new to create a routine that actually has some more longevity to it. So not sure if any of that resonates with you too, but just know that if it does, you are not alone in it. Any hoosers, now I'm just putting the final touches on the wizard bookcase. I got a cotton round to try and create some cobwebs. It would have been more efficient to have a full cotton ball. I think that would have been a lot easier to pull apart and have the cobweb effect, but I was determined to work with what I already had at the time. You'll notice that I also just have like a piece of cardboard that I stood up on that middle shelf by the periodicals. That's going to be a picture frame. Once I'm able to print out a picture of what I thought would be the perfect little Easter egg. So here she is with everything done. Full desk scape at work with my wizard and my salt lamp, ready to impress some kids on the first day of school. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.